Hey guys, it's Arthur. In today's video, I'm taking a look at something different, a couple of camera cages as well, and I'm answering the question of how do you add some wood accents to your A6000, A6300, or A6400, not A6500. So I am taking a look at two camera cages, one of which was sent to me by UU Here it is. The other one I thought, because it would be interesting, is the only other option as far as a competitor to this one is the small rig cage that also has a wood handle. So I'm going to do a quick comparison between these two to tell you which one is my favorite and which one you should spend your $50 on. I suppose before we take a look at both of these side by side, we should discuss what is the point of getting a camera cage for your Sony mirrorless camera anyway. I think that there are 4 reasons that you should maybe consider getting one. Number 1 is protection for your camera. If you throw your camera around a lot, if you drop it on accident, if it is inside of a cage, it is definitely going to be way more protected. You can get small cages like this, which are kind of like L brackets that just protect the bottom and one of the sides on your camera, but a full cage like one of these two options that I'll show you here in a moment is probably better protection for your camera overall. Number 2 is it allows you to mount a whole bunch of accessories, handles, microphones, adapters, all this other monitors on the side and on the top and on the bottom of your camera, which allows you to use your camera setup much more effectively if you have a bunch of things on it, and it looks cool too. Number 3, most cages, and these two cages in particular, improve the overall grip of the camera. So if you have larger hands, or if you just want to be able to grip your camera more securely, these cages do help out with that. And number 4, this is really primarily only for the A6400 users out there, but both of these cages allow for the relocation of the externally mounted microphone from the central position of the hot shoe where a microphone would block the flip-up screen over to the side where it probably won't. Here is what the packaging looks like for both of these cages. On the left, the UU rig, and on the right, the small rig. Inside of the boxes, you get some nice padding. The wood handles are separate from the cages, and they do include some tools, some Allen keys, and some hardware to secure these wood handles to the metal cages. So let's take a closer look at both of these cages. I'm gonna start with the UU rig. So it has a nice wood grain finish on the wood handle. It is only secured by these two Allen bolts here, but it feels very tight. It's not moving or wobbling at all. The overall finish on the cage is nice. It's kind of a matte metallic. This is obviously all metal. I do like the paint scheme. It does match the cameras, the A6400 in particular, a little bit better, I think, than the small rig, which is a bit more glossy. Around the top, there are a bunch of options for adding accessories and extension arms and carrying handles. On this side, there are a bunch of more threaded holes for added accessories. Same thing for the bottom. You get a bunch of options for mounting to a tripod and a large opening for the battery door so you can easily swap batteries with the camera still in the cage. One interesting bit about this cage is the inclusion of this little Allen bolt, which just is another securing point on your camera. This goes right through the rings on the side of your cameras that most people have those little triangle adapters on. So you have the tripod mount screw at the bottom and then that little Allen bolt securing the camera in 2 places. Moving on to the small rig, it is a little bit different. So the wood grain, first of all, in my opinion, looks a little bit cheaper and it looks a little bit more fake. However, I do like that there are these notches or ridges. Taking a look at the cage itself, it is finished with slightly more glossy paint, as I mentioned before. On this side in particular, you have a ton of threaded holes for a bunch of accessories. This is really designed for utility over aesthetics because if you look at the UU rig, it is slightly rounded on this side. Definitely looks nicer and it does feel good in the hand, but there are significantly more options for mounting accessories with the small rig cage. Around the bottom, you get a bunch of threaded holes for mounting this to a tripod, a large opening for the battery compartment as well. On this side, just more threaded holes as well. Here's the difference in the side-by-side between these two cages. Pretty similar here. Where they do differ a little bit more is around the top. The small rig cage is kind of straight across the top, whereas the UU rig kind of pokes out and it's also wider. As far as weight, both of these camera cages are very close to one another. The UU rig comes in at 178 grams versus 194 grams for the small rig. So here is what the UU rig cage looks like mounted on the A6400. I have the Sigma 16mm lens here. You can see that the color on this matches quite nicely because it's slightly matte, just like the camera body itself. There is a little bit of space between the camera and the handle here, but it's not too bad. You can see the cold shoe relocation is all the way over on the edge with this cage. On the side, you have, again, full access to your connections. The nice thing about the UU rig cage is all the attention to kind of smaller details. So you can read A6400 4K. You still have access to the knobs. On off you can read here. Around the front, even the Alpha logo is cut out. You can read Sony on this side, so it really doesn't block anything. There's even a cutout in the wood here for the IR on the camera. And here is the small rig cage. This is mounted on my A6000. And you could see that the A6000, I have the small rig on here because the A6000 is a little bit more glossy and it matches the small rig case a little bit better, I think. So around the side, you have access to this flip up. Here are your two connections. What's a little bit strange with this cage is that there is a huge gap here between the end of the grip on the camera body and this wood piece here. I suppose you could use this area for additional storage. You could stuff a couple of SD cards in there, but that is really weird. Here is the cold shoe relocation, not quite as far over to the edge as on the UU rig, but pretty dang close. With the small rig, it's a little bit more industrial, and they didn't really care about blocking things like the camera model here, or the Alpha logo on the front, which is partially blocked, or the Sony logo back here, which you could just see an S. And oddly enough, with this cage, your IR is completely blocked by this wood handle. So definitely not a good design here if you're looking to use red eye reduction. From a grip standpoint, the UU rig cage is almost perfect. I mean, you can grip it easily in your hand. I don't have the largest hands in the world, but this is a very comfortable grip, and it feels even more comfortable than just holding my A6500 that has the extended grip. With the small rig cage, on the other hand, it's almost too large of a grip for me. My hands, I can't really get a strong, firm grasp on the back of the camera. So if you have super large hands, I suppose this would be preferable and better for you. But for an average size hand to a slightly smaller hand, I'd say the UU rig grip is definitely more comfortable. So I've played around with these camera cages over the last couple of days, and I thought at first it would be difficult to choose a winner, but it's really not. So for your $50, the UU rig is definitely the way to go. Kind of a weird name. I like the finish on this. I like the attention to detail. Nothing's blocked. The grip is, like I said, very close to perfect, even though it doesn't have those grooves on the small rig. I like the wood finish better. Nothing's blocked as far as IR. And the cold shoe relocation moves it over about a centimeter even further to the edge of the camera, which is better because even if you have a large wind cat on your microphone, it shouldn't get in the way of this ever important flip up screen. So that is pretty much it for my review of this cage and comparison. If you would like to purchase one of these for your A6000, A6300, or A6400, by the way, this will work on all three of those cameras. Then as usual, I will post a link down below to Amazon where you can read about it and check it out and purchase it. And that is it for me. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all of your likes, comments, and support. Let me know what you guys thought of this cage and if you have a cage on your A6000, because I'm curious. Leave that down below in the comments and stay tuned for more. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.